The module I was given was Module 13, which is Chapter 13, Advertising, Marketing, and Persuasion. The topic I'm chose to talk about is mere exposure, and mere exposure is a theory that states through repeated exposure to a neutral stimulus, an individual comes to evaluate the stimulus more favorably. This happens to everybody with foods or drinks or products you use every day or different destination places or the car you're going to buy or the clothes you're going to wear. But the experience that I'm going to talk about is how my attitude changed about Apple Watches and what ultimately made me decide to buy one. When Apple Watch first came out, my stance was I didn't like them. I thought they were dumb. I didn't understand what the point was in putting a smaller version of my phone on my wrist. I have fossil watches that I'd been given from my dad or my sister as presents, and I wore those every day and it told the time just fine. I didn't see the point in spending $200 to get a computer on my wrist, essentially. But as time went on, I kept seeing the ads online, Facebook, Apple.com, the commercials on TV or Hulu, and it just shows you the features and how useful they were and how widespread they'd become. You couldn't walk around campus or the store or the mall without seeing half of everybody wearing one. But still, I didn't like them. When the Series 1 came out, my mom was gifted one for work, and she didn't know how to use it. So she asked me, since I'm the tech person of our family, but I didn't know how to use it, so I told her that I was going to have to take a few days and actually use it and figure it out. Once I figured out all the bells and whistles, I didn't want to give it back. It turned out to not just be a small phone. It was a fitness tracker. It checked your heart rate. It reminded you to breathe. It allowed you to stay connected with people. It controls your music. You can hit the next button. You can turn down the volume. You can call people on it. It didn't just tell the time. But when I gave it back and I showed her everything that you could do with it, I ended up going to buy one the very same day. Because I use my phone at work. I work at HEB. I use my phone to stay connected with the rest of my management team. We communicate that way. And it's easier for me to just look at my watch whenever my boss texts me like, hey, we need this to happen, or this is happening right now, instead of having to take the time to make sure that I'm paying attention to my phone at all times. I also use my Apple Watch to track my workouts at the gym, just to keep myself consistent, see my heart rate, the duration of my workouts, if my mile time is getting any lower. And I just think it's a useful tool now that I can't live without. When I don't wear it, it's like I'm missing part of me and I feel naked, which is weird, but you know. Apple also does a great job with their advertisements. They don't just put it on a billboard that says, hey, buy this. Their commercials have people actually using them and to, like I said, to work out or to use the phone or like see all the small features you can do with them. And once you're out in the real world, you see so many people using them. It's not even funny. But the repetition, seeing them in use and using one for myself ultimately sold me on buying one. And from this chapter, I can infer that mere exposure works because if you're not really like negative about a subject, I think when I wrote about this in the discussion board with the questions, I talked about how my roommate used to play songs, and I didn't hate them, but I didn't love them either. But as time went on, I started to add them to my phone, and I was listening to them, and I liked them, and I was singing to them. And the repetition just flips something in your brain that makes you channel it more favorably, just because you didn't hate it to begin with. I think it's harder to change your mind if you don't like something. So like if I didn't like the song, obviously I don't think that over time I'm going to end up liking it at all. But in conclusion, mere exposure is a theory that states repetition to a stimulus will change the individual's mindset in a favorable manner. This happens every day without realizing it. You hear a song you aren't crazy about. You continually hear people rave about a restaurant or a vacation destination that you would never see yourself going towards, but you didn't hate it. Um, but because of the repeated exposure, you figured, hey, let's go and try this. It happened recently with my Apple Watch. I was against them for so long. I just didn't like them. It didn't really affect me whether I had one or not. But after using one, the multiple exposure to commercials and ads, and now it's just part of my everyday routine. I make sure that it's charged every night with my cell phone, and it's one of the last things I put on. It's one of the first things that I put on the charger when I get home at night.